Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the DFO DFS show for Friday, January 15th. I hope you guys have a cold one and enjoy your Friday. I know I've got mine. I don't know if you're allowed to drink on live stream. I'll probably get kicked off of YouTube tomorrow. But anyways, let's talk about tonight's 5-game DFS slate. Let's fire up the website here. All right, so we just got confirmation that Vitek Vanacek is going to start for the Washington Capitals. We're expecting to see Linus Ullmark for the Buffalo Sabres on the other side. Since it's a back-to-back, I was actually a little surprised he didn't start yesterday, but Carter Hutton didn't look good, as you might expect. Toronto and Ottawa, Matt Murray. Apparently, DJ Smith decided he's not going to announce starting goalies this year, which is pretty lame. A lot of teams just decide that's cool thing to do these days, and it sucks for us, but whatever. But if it's not Matt Murray, I would be absolutely stunned. And Frederik Andersen goes tonight for Toronto, with Jack Campbell going tomorrow. This game, I just can't seem to get it off the website, so it is not happening tonight. Dallas and Florida still canceled. Tampa Bay hosts Chicago again. Andre Vasilevsky most likely going again for Tampa Bay. Chicago is expected to go with Colin Delia, although we don't know for sure. It might actually get confirmed while I'm doing this live stream. Usually happens around 5 o'clock. Rematch between the Penguins and the Flyers at 7. Carter Hart and Tristan Jarry once again. And then same thing, same goalie matchup for the Colorado-St. Louis game. Philip Grubauer and Jordan Binnington. So let's get into this slate. Pretty good one. A lot of similar games. Obviously, I think that's going to be the one interesting thing about this year with the way the schedule is like you're going to see these teams play each other. And then like a day, the next day or a day later, they're going to play each other again. And I feel like a lot of people are going to chase like last night, if you didn't play Washington 1, Ovechkin, Oshie, Backstrom, they went wild. I think a lot of people are going to go back to them. They're going to chase that. And whether or not it happens again, we'll see. But I think that's going to be what we're going to see a lot this year. People kind of chasing what happened in the previous game because it's the exact same setup. I mean, most nights it's one day off and then they go right back at it. Same building, same everything, same lines for the most part tonight. So it's going to be an interesting year for DFS from that perspective. But let's take a look at my favorite lines of the night. Start at the top here. We've got Toronto 1 as the top stack of the night by a pretty considerable margin as well. I like Toronto 1 a lot tonight. They performed pretty well in the first game. From a DFS perspective, they didn't have like this crazy game. But, you know, the Matthews line did see a lot of the Deneau line, as you might expect. And they performed really well. I think they had like a 77% Corsi 4 rating in that game. And they still turned in a pretty good game. But, you know, they didn't, go too wild and break the slate or anything like that. But tonight, looks like they're on a spot that they could do that. The reason for that being is they're expected to see a lot of the top 6 from Ottawa. And when you look at the Ottawa's top 6, I mean, the Brady Tkachuk line is usually half decent. We don't really have anything to go off of in terms of Ottawa too, since, you know, it's Steitzel's first game, Derek Stepan's first game in Ottawa. So this information is based solely just kind of historical data from Derek Stepan, usually a fairly reliable two-way center. But it still looks like a pretty good matchup for Toronto 1. You know, these numbers don't jump off the chart as it being an outrageous matchup, but where you get the big difference is obviously Toronto 1's numbers are just terrific. I mean, they average 36 scoring chances, 4 per 60, 14 high danger chances, 4 per 60, both outstanding rates. So Toronto 1 in a pretty good spot. Ottawa should be improved this year. I think that everyone could probably agree with me on that, but I don't think they're going to be like exponentially better than they were last year. And, Matt Murray doesn't move the needle too much. I mean, I think he had a sub 900 save percentage last year, so it's not like he's going to come in and just steal the game here. So I think that Toronto 1 in obviously a pretty good spot. I think you can definitely look at Toronto 2 as well because, for obvious reasons. William Nylander had a terrific first game. John Tavares played extremely well as well. So obviously this is a spot where you can, Josh stack, which would be just, kind of an onslaught stack of 6 players, maybe 7 if you want to fit everybody in, if you can get it in. But the problem with that is they break up their power play units this year so much that you can't really, it's not like before where you could play Tavares, Matthews, Marner, and Morgan Riley. I mean, in this spot, you can definitely just play Matthews, Marner, and Riley. That would be my preferred option. I think Toronto 1 is the better play tonight. So if I was going to play Toronto, I'm going to definitely play the top line, Matthews and Marner. I don't have a ton of interest in Joe Thornton. Just doesn't shoot enough for me, but he could definitely pick up a couple assists. playing with those two players, he is only 3,400. Sticking with this game for a minute, they don't, again, like I said, Ottawa 2 right around average, but can't really go off those numbers too much because we have never seen these guys play together. But I think that they're in a very interesting spot tonight. They're definitely somebody I'm going to be playing tonight. Tim Stutzel, or Stutzel, I forgot to spell his name correctly on the spreadsheet. We'll do that tomorrow. 2,500. I mean, he's minimum priced. If you guys watch the World Juniors, he was absolutely outstanding. So Stutzel at the minimum price is definitely somebody I'm going to play. The Maple Leafs, we've talked about it a couple days ago. They're not the greatest defensive team in hockey, so Ottawa will definitely have their chances tonight. So I like Stutzel at the minimum price, and then Dadanoff's also way too good to be only 3,100. And if you want a full stack and go with Derek Stepan too, go nuts. They're just so cheap that you can do whatever the hell you want. Ottawa and Toronto can definitely be a high-scoring game. So I like Ottawa too. Ottawa 1 jumps off the page as well in terms of, they're in the top 5 of my best plays this evening. I obviously like Brady Tkachuk a lot. I think Josh Norris is a fine play at 3,000 if you're looking to save some money at the center position. Given Brady Tkachuk shot volume, he's always a strong play. But if I'm going to play Ottawa, I'm going to pay down for Ottawa too, just because they're so cheap. We've seen a couple of these rookies come in this year. You see Hoglander, Kaprizov last night. He's not Stutzel. He's a little bit older. Stutzel's only 19, but still, we saw what he can do in the World Juniors. He's an absolute dynamic talent. So at the min price, I'm definitely going to go there. I went Kaprizov last night. It paid off handsomely. So if I'm going to play Ottawa tonight, it's definitely going to be Ottawa too. If you want to get super cheap, you can also go with Christian Wolanin on the blue line. He is also the minimum price. He is the power play quarterback of the second power play unit, which is where you'll find Stutzel as well. So if you're playing, maybe a full Ottawa stack, it would be so cheap. Like, I don't think you need to full stack them, but if you're making a bunch of lineups, I think they're definitely at play, and you can just cram in all the other high priced options like McKinnon and all those other guys. So if you're playing Ottawa, that's where I'm looking. Let's go to the next game here. We've got the Lightning and the Blackhawks. Tampa Bay obviously dominated the first game. I expect them to dominate again. I'm definitely going to be playing Vasilevsky tonight. He's just the only goalie on the slate where you're like, yep, he's probably going to win tonight. The rest of these games, they're toss-ups for the most part. I mean, I think that Toronto is probably going to handle Ottawa, so you can play Frederik Andersen. But when you're looking at the price, they're pretty much the exact same price. Frederik Andersen, 8,300, and Vasilevsky, 8,500. So if you're going to pay up for one, you might as well pay up for Vasilevsky. I think the chances of Ottawa scoring are much greater than Chicago scoring tonight, so I like Vasilevsky. I think he's going to be super high owned because there is still value on the slate, so cramming Vasilevsky in makes a ton of sense for me. Tampa Bay, you'll notice their lines don't really pop off on the sheet here, right around the middle. And that's just because of how the first game went. You see here that they're supposed to see 74% of 46% of Chicago's fourth line. And Chicago's fourth line, their numbers are terrific. If you look here, not somebody really that is giving up any chances whatsoever. Only 16 scoring chances against per 60, super low, lowest on the entire slate. So if Stamkos and Point are out there playing, half their minutes against those guys, that's, not great. And Chicago showed a willingness to put those guys out there against Stamkos in the first game. So it could be difficult for them to generate anything at 5v5. Now, you can still definitely play Tampa Bay because whenever they're on the power play, they're incredibly lethal. That power play runs literally from Point to Hedman to Stamkos all the way around, like over and over again. So those guys, on the power play can still get their numbers, even if they have a tough 5v5 matchup. So Tampa Bay won from 5v5, not a great play. But when you take in the entire scheme of things with the power play, they're certainly going to be one of the more popular and one of the best options on tonight's slate. From Chicago's point of view, I have no interest whatsoever. If you look here, you've got, their second and third line are, not good. They're not going to score. Their top line is the only line we're targeting, and they're supposed to see roughly 75% of their ice time against Tampa Bay's third line. Tampa Bay's third line with the, that's Gord, it's Coleman, it's Barclay Goodrow, and they've been pretty good over the years. They're a tough line to play against. Obviously, in a small sample size, 31 scoring chances against per 60 looks kind of appetizing, but it's bizarre because they don't give up a lot of opportunities or like a lot of shot attempts. So it's a bit of an outlier to me. I don't trust that number too much. So to me, that is not a line that I'm really targeting. I'm talking about Chicago 1. just because Tampa Bay's third line is, can suffocate you. And there's nobody else on Chicago that's going to score a goal other than that top line. And even the goal they did score in the first game, it was like the flukiest goal I've ever seen. So I don't bank on that happening again. I skipped this game again. Coleman is a good one-off. Yeah, Coleman's always kind of just a good one-off play just because he does shoot a lot, especially when they're matching up with Chicago as much as Chicago won as they're going to tonight. They're going to see a lot of ice time. So Coleman's fine. Yeah, I just think, again, like, we're so early in the season that there's so many guys in top 6 roles and top power plays that are super cheap that you don't have to quite go all the way down to Coleman because he doesn't see any power play time, or very limited if he does step out on the power play. So I'm not going to go there tonight, but Coleman's shot volume is always terrific. Buffalo 1 comes in as one of my top stacks tonight. Taylor Hall had a couple points in his debut, looked really good. Jack Eichel looked like, regular Jack Eichel. The Sabres got off to a ridiculously slow start. I don't remember the exact number, but they were getting outshot pretty handily early in the game. And then they started coming around in the second and third period. They made it pretty close. I think, like I said earlier, I think a lot of people are going to chase that Washington 1 stack again. And I like going the other way with Buffalo 1. Taylor Hall only 6,500, still super cheap. Jack Eichel 7,500, not all that expensive. If Tage Thompson remains in that line, 3,700, he looked okay last night. I wouldn't be surprised if Victor Olofsson moves back up there tonight. We'll see if they make any changes in warmups. Be ready to make that pivot. If Victor Olofsson's up there, it's definitely somebody I'd want to play. He's only 4,000, so he's like barely cheaper than Tage Thompson. He's a much better player than Tage Thompson. So if that happens, I would even still maybe play them all 3 together and not play Tage. Just play Victor Olofsson because they are on the top power play together. And Rasmus Dahlin's only like 4,100, so you can power play stack Buffalo for extremely cheap. I think that it's going to be a much more competitive game last night. Buffalo 1 didn't do too bad last night. 42% Corsi leaves a lot to be desired. But if Eric Stahl's out tonight, which I'm assuming he is, he took a brutal elbow to the skull. So I don't think he's going to play. And if that's the case, they said that Riley Sheehan's going to move to the middle. I'd expect that means more ice time for Cody Eakin more than anything. Maybe this Curtis Lazar line with Skinner on it. But I think what it really means is that the Eichel line is going to play a ton. They're going to eat, it's still early. It is a back-to-back, but it's still early in the season where they got their legs. So I'm not too concerned about fatigue on a back-to-back. So I think the Eichel line is going to play an absolute shitload of minutes tonight. So if Stahl's out, obviously, but keep an eye on that in warm-ups here at 6:30. So keep an eye on that. If he's out, it bumps Eichel's lineup even more. Obviously, Washington's still in play. Linus Ullmark is a much better goalie than Carter Hutton for my money. So Washington 2 and Washington 1 grade out pretty well. Ovechkin 8,400. Backstrom still pretty cheap, 5,100. Oshie 5,700. It's not a super expensive line. I would go there. If I'm going to play Washington, it's going to be their top line. I'm not going to pay for almost the same price for Kuznetsov and Veron as I am as Backstrom and Oshie when they're not playing with Ovechkin. So if I'm going to go there, it's going to be them. Washington 1 is expected to see the majority of the time they're supposed to see the Eichel line. So that is a spot where you can definitely pick up some offense. Are they not on this sheet? Where did they go? Oh, they're right here. So, Eichel's line's done a pretty good job over the years of not giving up too many scoring chances. So the thing with Washington is you always kind of play them for the power play. Their numbers at 5v5 are, they're pretty strong, especially Washington 2, but this is a pretty small sample size over the years. So, I still like Washington 1 more. Ovechkin's he's going to do Ovechkin things. But like I said, I'm not chasing that. I'm not going to play them at that high ownership. I think that Buffalo's going to be much more competitive tonight. So I'm going to go with Buffalo 1 in that game. I'll probably sprinkle in some Washington 1 as well. Maybe make the odd lineup with a Washington power play stack just in case they decide to go off again. So that's where I'm going in that game. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I will get to any questions, even if you're not a DFS player, you're here for just regular old hockey chat. If you got some season-long questions, I'll be happy to answer those as well. Maybe you're doing an owner's box draft tonight. I'll answer any owner's box draft questions you got. I've got a draft at 8 tonight, so this is my little pregame before I go dominate some people in fantasy hockey. Okay, so let's go back to this Tampa Bay Chicago game. So they got absolutely decimated, and I expect that to probably be the case again tonight. Tampa Bay, 31 scoring chances, 4 per 60, pretty good number for them. who are they going to see again? Oh, sorry, let me just go back to this. So they're expected to see the fourth line of Chicago and the third line of Chicago, or second line of Chicago, sorry. So again, if you're playing half your minutes against Chicago 4, not great. If you're playing the other half of your minutes against this Suter, Shaw, Kubalik line, then great. You should have chances there. But again, this is all just going to kind of boil down to them, how much they can generate on the power play, because I do expect that fourth line to shut them down a little bit. If you look at Tampa Bay's second line, they're pretty interesting just because you've got Tyler Johnson coming back. He's extremely cheap tonight. So they're definitely in play if you need a cheap stack. You're going to probably want to get some exposure to that game because Tampa Bay, could easily put up 5 goals again tonight. So if you're not going to pay up for Tampa Bay's top line, Killorn, Cirelli, Tyler Johnson, full stack at just 11,000, ridiculously cheap. Killorn still sees plenty of time on that top power play unit. So it's a good way to get exposure to that top PP unit as well. So I think that Tampa Bay's second line is a fine option at that price. But like I said, there's so much value still to be had elsewhere on the slate. And again, I absolutely love Vasilevsky, even though he's expensive. But I don't know if some of you guys might be new to the stream. I'm not one that usually pays down for goalie. I'll try to target usually not the highest price goalie, but somebody that is in the mid tier. Like yesterday, I liked Cam Talbot. He turned in a pretty strong performance. I liked Korpisalo as like the lowest end I would go at 7,400. He looked really good. Like Korpisalo played great. They just couldn't score. Pierre-Luc Dubois doesn't look like he wants to be there anymore. So they couldn't generate any offense, lost the game. That was kind of unfortunate. But Ghost Pickles says, should I stay away from Rust? Yeah, let's talk about that game right now. So I was pretty high on Pittsburgh in the first matchup. Obviously, that didn't go well, but I do remain pretty optimistic about their outlook tonight. I'm just going to pull up that game here on Natural Stat Trick just to see how it all kind of shook out in the last meeting. So I have Pittsburgh 1 as the much better play tonight. Evan Rodriguez, I said I wasn't going to play him in that first game. He actually generated a couple shots, picked up some points. He was fine. So if you're going to full stack him at 2,900, he makes that line extremely affordable. But I really like Sidney Crosby and Jake Gensel again tonight. Gensel had a really quiet night the first time. So I think that, their ownership was extremely low the first time around. I expect it to be, right around the same in that first game or in the second game. So I don't think it's going to rise too much after they had a quiet game. But if you look at it in the first game, they fared pretty well. Crosby, Gensel, they had 60% Corsi for. They were among the best lines for Pittsburgh. That Jankowski McCann-Tanev line looked really good in their first game together. I don't expect that to continue. That's just not a line that I'm ever going to be very interested in. And I just don't think that those are too many very good hockey players, really. So I don't think that they're going to continue to have that kind of success. But if we look at this matchup, Philadelphia, the reason that I wasn't crazy high the first time around on Pittsburgh 1 was because they were expected to see a lot of the Couturier line, and it just wasn't the case. They kind of spread it out. Philadelphia was very content with sending out their fourth line against Sidney Crosby. It did work fairly well. Scott Laughton, they did a fine job, but it's not something that I am really concerned about if I'm playing Pittsburgh 1. If you look at their numbers, they're just outstanding. Average, 2.88 expected goals for, 14 high danger chances for per 60. And if you look at the fourth line of the Flyers, I mean, they're not terrible. They're pretty solid defensively, but I would way rather have Sidney Crosby going out there against Scott Laughton half the time than Sean Couturier. So I think Pittsburgh 1 is firmly in play tonight. I like them a lot. I like them a little bit more than Pittsburgh 2. Pittsburgh 2 is going to see, just as much of Couturier. They're going to see a little bit more of that Kevin Hayes line. That Kevin Hayes line is just as good defensively with Giroux on it as they are the Couturier line. So if I'm going to play Pittsburgh, it's definitely going to be the Crosby Gensel line. Let's go to a couple questions here. What's the best super cheap option for today to play with elite stacks? Okay, so Steitzel, obviously at 2,500, I think is terrific. I think Dadonov at 3,100 is outstanding. I'm going to go through the defensemen a little bit. Last night, all of our cheap defensemen hit. Grzelcyk hit. Rasmus Anderson hit. Tyson Barrie hit. I think they all went for like at least 15 points, so that was awesome. The D punts are not quite as obvious tonight, but we'll get to those. If I drop Ryan O'Reilly for Cirelli, can I switch out Rust for Gensel? Probably a better call. Yeah. Ryan O'Reilly's fine. Like as an actual hockey player, he's outstanding. But from a DFS perspective, I don't care that much, especially against a pretty good Colorado team. I'm late. Have you discussed your favorite goalies yet? No, I have not. We'll get to that. Do you think Gustafsson is a better option than Provorov? Now, I think he's probably a better option on DFS tonight because his price did not go up at all. He's only 2,900, where Provorov is, I think, considerably more expensive still. 5,000. So yeah, like the 3,100 that you're going to save there. I think that Gustafsson's still a good play. I expect Gustafsson to be, massively popular tonight after a terrific first game, and he's really one of the only reasonable cheap defensemen tonight. So I think that Gustafsson is probably a better play tonight just because he's cheaper, but you'll get Provorov at significantly lower ownership. And Ghost Pickle says he's going to pay more for Gensel for Rust. Yeah, I would do that. Do I like Philly's second line? We'll get to that here in a second. How about going back to McKinnon Lynn? Yep. Okay, so let's finish off this Philly game, and then I'll get to that Colorado game because that is definitely going to be super interesting tonight. Let's bring up Philadelphia's lines here. So in their first game, the third line went crazy. Farabee went off. Everybody's like, oh my God, freaking out about Farabee. If you watch that game, I mean, the first goal, Farabee got an assist by just throwing it off the dasher back to the point. Gustafsson threw it on net, got tipped in by Van Riem's, like, very nice tip, no question about it, but just a kind of like a fluky goal. Like Farabee didn't do anything special. The other goal went off of Nolan Patrick's ass and went in. Again, super fluky. And then Farabee's goal, Mike Matheson just looked like a house league defenseman, and he walked right around him and scored easily. Yari looked terrible. So, Farabee looked great. I like Farabee a lot. I'm definitely not going to chase that tonight. I think people will. I think that they're going to see pretty high ownership again just because of what happened there in the first game. But Pittsburgh went and they shuffled their defensemen around today because of how bad it was. They're going to sit Cody Ceci. They're going to play Mike Matheson on the third pair, and they're going to actually put Pettersson and Marino back together. And Pettersson and Marino were one of the best young pairings in the entire NHL last year. Nobody talks about them. They're incredibly underappreciated. So it's going to be a lot harder for Philadelphia to generate offense when they're playing most of their minutes against Dumoulin, the Tank, Pettersson, Marino, and then Pittsburgh's third pair is going to see a lot more sheltered minutes tonight. So it's going to be a little bit tougher on the Flyers tonight. They don't get the luxury of playing against top four Mike Matheson and Cody Ceci, every other shift. So I don't like Philly quite as much tonight. But let's go back to see where they kind of grade out in my stacks. So Philly 1 is the top option for me. Philly 2 is, basically right behind them. So I think they're both, okay plays tonight. I'm not going to go to it. I think I like Pittsburgh's side a little bit more tonight. Maybe they'll burn me again. Maybe they won't. But Lindblom at 3,000 is great. I think the reason I like Philly 1 more than Philly 2 is that Konechny at 4,400. He's literally the same price pretty much as Farabee. And Konechny's production is a lot more reliable than Farabee. So if I'm going to stack somebody, it's going to be the top line, especially considering, you'd think like I said that Crosby's going to see less time against Couturier, but that also means that Couturier is going to spend a lot less time chasing Crosby around too. So opens up a little bit more room for them to produce some offense. So I like Philly 1 if I'm going to play Philly. Let's pull up their lines here. If you're going to play Philly 1, you've got Couturier and Konechny on the top power play. So at that point, you're probably going to want to play Provorov instead of Gustafsson. And then Gustafsson, if you're going to play Philly 2, I think is the better option just to get that. I think that they're still going to roll that second power play unit out there quite a bit just because how much success they had in the first game. Yes, offensively. Yes, Ray Rock, you're a Flyers fan, so you watch everything. I absolutely love Kevin Hayes as a player, but tonight I'm going Philly 1 just because of the way the matchup shook out in that first game was pretty interesting to me, and I think that opens up a lot more opportunities for Philly 1 tonight. And I think that the main thing is that Philly 2 is going to draw ownership, and I don't want to play a 25% owned Joel Farabee. I'm not that interested in that. But let's get to the last game of the night because yes, one of the most interesting things tonight is that Colorado won. Immediately reunited their top line. Landeskog, Rantanen, and McKinnon are back together. They grade out as one of my best stacks of the night for obvious reasons, but they are incredibly expensive at 21,000, the highest price stack of the night, but still not that expensive when you're thinking, when you're getting Colorado 1, McKinnon 8,500 expensive, but the other two not too bad. So I like Colorado 1 a lot tonight. I think that, they came out slow. They didn't look great in the opening night. A lot of expectations. I expect them to be better tonight. The Blues are a tough matchup, obviously. So let's take a look at their matchup. So they're expected to see 58% of the Ryan O'Reilly line. If you look at Ryan O'Reilly, obviously a terrific defensive player. Only 24 scoring chances against per 60. So it's not a great matchup. Oh, sorry. Only 22 scoring chances against per 60 for Ryan O'Reilly. So it's not a good matchup for Colorado 1. So it's not that great of a spot. But I expect them to be better. They can't be worse than they were in that opening night. So if people are going to fade Colorado 1 to go to these other cheaper options, then I'm all in on Colorado 1. They are still just an outstanding line. When you put that top line back together, averaging over 31 scoring chances for per 60, 12 high danger chances. Really good numbers for them. One of the best on the slate, obviously. So it's not a great matchup, but it's definitely somewhere I'm going to go because I don't think they're going to be that high owned. And there's so much, it's going to be hard throughout the season when Colorado 1 does actually have good matchups to fit them in because they're always so expensive. But on a slate like tonight where there's still a lot of value out there, you can easily stack them with some of these other cheaper lines and fit them in elsewhere. So please tell me about those tables at the end. I assume it's a premium option. Yeah, so this stack table here is available on DFO as a premium option. You can sign up for as little as $9.99 a month. And then all these other tables are going to be added as the season goes on. They should be up next week. So if you want to learn a little bit about the tables, the score is basically I simulate the game based on each team's 5v5 or each line's 5v5 numbers, both offensively and defensively, and based on a projected matchup. Based on historical data. So, let's say, for example, you've got Pittsburgh 1 playing 18 minutes a night, but 50% of them, what do I got here? Pittsburgh 1, if they're going to play 18 minutes a night on 5v5, where did they go? Right here. 29% of those minutes is against the top line of Philadelphia, 25% against the second line. And it simulates those minutes against those lines and figures out how many scoring chances they're going to generate, what's their expected goal for rate, and then it weights each team or each line's output against all the other lines on the slate. So it's right here about the two average lines of the night. Anything above is in play. Anything below, something you don't want to go to. And then all these other tables, these are just their matchups. Obviously, this is just what the projected matchup of how much they're going to play at 5v5 against each line. And then this is each line's statistics. Anything in blue on the left side of the table means they're super strong offensively. Anything in blue on the other side means they're weak defensively, and it's a line that you're going to want to target against. So you've got a line like this, Washington 2. Whoever's playing against Washington 2 a lot tonight is in a good spot. Who's against Washington 2 a lot tonight? It would be Buffalo 2. Now, that changes things because Eric Staal is questionable. So, if Eric Staal doesn't play, I don't have any interest in Buffalo 2. But that's just kind of how to look at these tables as I go through things. And if you sign up for premium, you will get access to these tables. So let's go to the goalies here really quickly. So again, if you are new to the stream, we use Dom Lucian's probabilities from The Athletic. Does a terrific job. If you don't subscribe to The Athletic, I suggest you do so. So he's obviously got Frederik Andersen and Vasilevsky as two of the higher percentage chance of winning tonight for obvious reasons. So I like both of them. If I'm going to play either one, it's going to be Vasilevsky. I think that he probably allows less goals tonight and has a slightly higher chance of winning the game, even though Dom doesn't seem to agree, but that's totally fine. I think Linus Ullmark's a fine play. I think Linus Ullmark's a pretty good goalie. I think that his win probability definitely goes up now that Vanacek is starting for Buffalo. Vanacek starting instead of Samsonov definitely puts Buffalo's Buffalo stack in play for me. So I think Ullmark is an okay play if you're going to go that low. I do not like Matt Murray tonight. I think that the Senators are going to get shelled. Delia, obviously not an option at 6,800. I think they're going to get crushed. I have a hard time going back to Tristan Jarry. He just did not look sharp in that first game. I was a little bit surprised that they went back to him. I thought for sure we would see Casey DeSmith tonight, but Jarry gets a start. He looked shaky. He did not look sharp. A couple of those goals were not his fault, and that's, you can't blame him for those, but then a couple goals he just did not look right. So I'm not going to go back to Jarry. Ray Rock, he told me not to play Jarry the first time. He was right. So I'm not going to go back to Jarry tonight. He'll probably post a shutout. So I'm just not going to chase it until I see him start playing a little bit better. Then in the last game, I think that Grubauer's certainly in play at 7,700, and Binnington too. Whatever you feel about that game, if you're fading Colorado one, I have no problem playing Binnington. I played him in the late slate on the first night. He was outstanding. He's a great goalie. I just it's so hard, right? You're trying to find somewhere where they're gonna win the game, and I just don't know who's gonna win that game. It's such a toss up. So I'm gonna probably pay up tonight, just get my guaranteed win. Might not get the same shot save equity with somebody like Vasilevsky, but I know I'm going to get my 6 points for that win bonus because there's a lot of value on the slate. As the season goes on and the value kind of disappears, you're going to have to pay down at goalie. Well, Hoffman did not play. He was only 3,000. His price is still low. Still a good one-off choice. Yes. So Hoffman burned me. I feel like I didn't talk about St. Louis enough. So let's go look at St. Louis. So Hoffman is. Let me just bring up St. Louis's lines really quickly. So Hoffman, I think, is only 4,100. Yeah, super cheap. We saw Sundqvist have just an outstanding night the first time in Hoffman's spot, and Hoffman's a much better player. So obviously Hoffman's in play at 4,100. I also like Robert Thomas. He's one of my favorite cheap centers tonight, 3,100. I swapped Hoffman for Thomas on Wednesday. He had 2 assists. He did fine. I don't, he's not going to shoot a lot, especially with Hoffman back. So I think Hoffman, definitely a fine one-off play. The way I was building lineups before I came live, a lot of my lineups were, stacking other lines and then fitting in Hoffman as my one-off play. So I definitely like Hoffman at 4,100. It looks like, if Sundqvist could score, I think he had like 31 DraftKings points or something outrageous. If he can score 31, I definitely think Hoffman is a strong play at 4,100. A couple extra Delia should be free. Yeah. Realistically against Tampa, he should be like 5,400. You shouldn't even really have to pay for him. Thoughts on Batherson on Ottawa 1? Yeah, Batherson's also a really good player. I do like Ottawa 1 a little bit tonight. Brady Tkachuk, Josh Norris, Batherson, it's a super cheap stack. All ridiculously talented offensive players. The thing that's really interesting about that line is that Ottawa 2 is just as cheap. It's a little bit flashier because they have Stützle, and Dadonov is ridiculously priced at 3,100. So a lot of the Ottawa ownership, I believe, will go to Ottawa 2. Stützle's just a flashier name. Dadonov is way too cheap, and overall, they're just they're much cheaper than Ottawa 1. So if you want to go with Ottawa 1 instead, I think that's definitely a smart play because they are, I think they'll come in at lower ownership. And Josh Norris is outstanding. There's a reason he's their top line center. He had a ridiculous year in the AHL. Batherson, same can be said about him. And then you got to love what you get with Brady Tkachuk. His shot volume is outstanding. Hoffman are connecting tonight, only $300 difference. Ooh, that's tough. They're right in about the same boat for me. I would probably go Konechny. I think that'll be a little bit more of a high-paced game. The Colorado-St. Louis game, that whole Western division is going to be tight checking all year long. So I think those would be sludgier games, a lot less scoring chances, where we saw Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. That shit was wide open the other day. So I definitely like Konechny a little bit more, but Hoffman's shot volume is outstanding. But Konechny can get it done as well. So I would slightly lean towards Konechny tonight. Which one would you play more, Colorado 1 or Tampa Bay 1? Probably still Tampa Bay 1, just because, we're talking about Colin Delia versus Jordan Binnington. Tampa Bay is going to get their power plays, and they are going to, like I said, they are still going to go point to head into Stamkos, and Stamkos is going to rip bombs. So, later in the year, that answer is definitely going to be Colorado 1. But the price difference is almost the exact same price. They all correlate on the top power play unit, which I absolutely love. So for me, it's a slight lean towards Tampa Bay 1, just because Colin Delia sucks. Sorry if Colin Delia's family's watching. And Jordan Binnington is good. So for me, I still like Tampa Bay 1, even though they both have tough matchups. D. I forgot to talk about the D. Let's get to that really quick. So if we're talking cheap defensemen, obviously Gustafsson is a solid play at 2,900. You can definitely go there. There's just not a lot of really cheap D tonight. Yesterday it was blatantly obvious. And tonight it's just not quite as obvious. Pettersson's a guy that I play sometimes. Dumoulin, they're both down there. It's 31 and 2,900 just because, there is some shot block potential there. Let me just pull up my other sheet here. If we're talking about some of the good power play defensemen, Rasmus Dahlin at 4,100 really spikes my interest. Sergachev is okay at 4,800. I played him the other night because he plays at 5v5 with Tampa Bay, won a lot. So if you can't jam in Hedman to get the full power play stack, because he's hard. I mean, Hedman is 6,900. Sergachev's okay, 4,800. He plays with them a lot at 5v5. He's a guy that isn't shy throwing the puck on net. I also like Morgan Riley a lot tonight for obvious reasons. Paul, you just asked about Sergachev. I don't think he is too expensive just because it is such big savings off Hedman and you're still getting exposure and you're still correlating well with Tampa Bay's top line. So Ghost Pickle says, got to go. Great live stream. First time watching this. Thank you very much, Ghost Pickles. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're doing this every single day, so feel free to stop by every day of the week. So let me just pull up. I'm trying to find some of these cheap defensemen. I didn't have a chance to look at the defensemen too much, but when I was building lineups earlier, it was a lot of Gustafsson, and then I was paying up for a lot of these kind of more expensive guys because I think tonight's the night where you kind of just punch your forwards. I mean, you got Stützle, there's so many cheap forward options. You can play Thornton. I'm not crazy. Even Braden Shen at 4,000 is ridiculously cheap. Josh Norris, super cheap at 3,000. A lot of these high-powered lines have cheap guys. So for me, I probably am not going to play too many cheap defensemen tonight. I'm going to get my value with the cheap forwards, hope that they score a goal, pay off, and then pay up at defensemen, try to get the top power play, correlate my defenseman on the top power play unit with my defenseman. But there are some decent options out there. So let me just kind of try to go through them a little bit here. So Dumoulin is probably one of the best. I think he's 3,100. Yeah, 3,100. He had three blocks, 2 shots in the first game. So he's a guy that you can kind of rely to do stuff like that, on a fairly regular basis. And he plays a ton with the tank. So Dumoulin's a guy that I would definitely look at. I saw Phil Myers, Vince Dunn. Yeah, so Phil Myers, he's fine. What's Sanheim's price? Is he cheap? 3,800. Yeah, I have more interest in Sanheim. But if you need to go way down there, Myers is okay. I would probably pay up. Again, find the value. I'd rather punt Stützle at 2,500 than Phil Myers at 2,700. So I would be looking to punt the wingers tonight rather than the defensemen because there just isn't that many really good options, which is completely opposite of what it was last night. So BL Studio from Quebec City, thank you for your show. Thank you for the shout out. No problem. And Markle, excellent stuff. Appreciate it, guys. Glad you guys are enjoying this. I'm having fun doing it every single day. But we are coming up here on the 45-minute mark. So I think it's time to head out unless you have any more questions. Battery is running low, so don't want to lose the live stream either. So unless there's any more questions, I think I'm going to go. I'll take a sip here and wait for anything else. That's Nikolic. Oh, no, that's Sergei Fedorov, by the way. Pretty good stuff. Hopefully I don't get kicked off YouTube for that. I don't know if you're allowed to do that. I'm new to this YouTube stuff. Oh, yeah. So I think I got to do like what all those other YouTube guys do and say something like smash the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell so you get notifications when I go live, all that stuff. It helps us a lot, boosts us up to the top of the page. Daily Face-Off, obviously a massive fantasy resource. And now I'm trying to, get more involved with stuff like this. So I'm having a lot of fun doing this live show every day. And I plan on keep doing it every single day in the future here. So I shouldn't say every single day because I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm not going to be here Sunday. But Monday through Friday, every single week, 5 p.m., we're going to be here. If you guys have any DFS questions, feel free to reach out on Twitter. Tomorrow and Sunday, I'll answer your questions on there as well. So if you guys have any questions, and in the meantime, to get access to any of this stuff, sign up for DFO Premium. Become a DFO Premium member, get access to all this stuff on the website. And you can start for just $9.99 for the first week. See if you like it. If not, don't renew, and then come back to the show, and we'll do it here again. So anyways, had a great time here today. Enjoy your guys' weekend. Enjoy hockey this evening, and we'll see you guys back here on Monday.